Most of you people know that Italy and Japan were allies of Nazi Germany. Countries like Romania, Hungary and Bulgaria were as well. But did you know that the Kingdom of Iraq also briefly joined the Axis powers? But then the British intervened. How that all happened, you will learn today. Good to have you back on the channel. If you're new on this channel, I'm Stefan, I'm a Dutch history teacher and I love to dress up in funny costumes, but also teach history via this channel. History Hustle. If you're new, do subscribe, hit that notification bell, and you can also support me financially via Patreon, PayPal, a super thanks, or you can buy me a coffee. Iraq was under British administration from World War I till 1932. During the First World War, the British launched the Mesopotamian campaign to retain control over valuable natural resources in the Persian Gulf, as well as provide a base of operations to protect British-held India. After a costly campaign in March 1917, they managed to capture the Iraqi capital, Baghdad. When World War I was over, the defeated Ottoman Empire was carved up. There were shifting ideas, double promises, also regarding Palestine, but let's focus on Iraq. The British establishment of Iraq Mandate and the British occupation of the three Ottoman provinces of Mosul, Baghdad and Basra following the cessation of war formed the precursor to the creation of the State of Iraq. What makes the British Mandate of Iraq stand out was the lack of organization and decision making on the British side. The government in London was undecided about Iraq's future. Following the emerging idea of self-determination, the mandate system was designed to modify colonialism and prepare the way for independence. Following the San Remo Agreement of 1920, Britain was awarded a mandate over Iraq. Fueled by Arab nationalism, encouraged by the British during the war against the Ottomans, the Arabs rose against the British in 1920. Interesting, this revolt was a rare instance in which Sunni and Shia Muslims set aside their differences and joined their struggle against the British infidels. To establish indirect rule over Iraq, the British offered the Hashemite Emir Faisal the throne. King Faisal I did prove to be suited for his position as he possessed Arab nationalist sympathies. As the mandate system was never intended as a permanent measure, the British, who were suffering economic hardship on the domestic front following the war, were increasingly willing to divest themselves of the expenses associated with the mandate. Their condition for Iraqi independence, though, was the securing of British economic interest in the region. In 1930, a treaty was signed which changed the image of Britain as an occupying force and the promise of imminent independence. The British Mandate ended in 1932, but this did not end British influence over the region, as Iraq's foreign policies would not be allowed to run counter to perceived British interests. Now, King Faisal I faced a major problem, uniting the population and the satisfactory accommodation of all sections of society. The state apparatus that the British set up did not forge the different elements of the society in one nation, as tribal feuds and ethnic confrontations remained. King Faisal passed away in 1933 and was succeeded by his son Ghazi. That year, much of the Assyrian community, being seen as pro-British by the Iraqi government, was massacred by the Iraqi army led by a general of Kurdish origin, Bakr Siddiqui. In 1935-36, Iraqi Shia revolts occurred in which around 200 were killed. In 1936, Iraqi military officers committed a coup d'etat. Now, many saw these men as pro-Axis. I wonder why. The Iraqi king Ghazi, he cooperated with the ringleaders, and this brought him in increasing conflict with the British. In 1939, Ghazi died in a car accident. Now, many believe that this was a staged accident and the British were involved. Riots followed and a British consul in Mosul was killed. Because Ghazi's infant son was too young to rule, a pro-British regent took office. The Iraqi Prime Minister Rashid Ali spoke against British influence. The hatred against the British ran deep. By 1940, France fell to Germany and Italy had entered the war. Among Iraqi politicians, there were fears that Turkey might start to claim northern parts of the country. And this led Baghdad to contact the Axis powers. The Italians had a diplomatic mission in the country, yet Iraqi leaders favored Germany. There was a general respect for the German military, and although Iraq remained neutral officially, the Iraqi military wanted to build up its forces. As the Iraqi press stated, the cabinet put before the eyes of the nation the duty of preserving Iraq from the evils of war and from everything which might reduce its sovereignty, which is built on the skulls of innocent martyred sons and their blood shed on many battlefields. The independence which the nation has obtained by blood and defended by blood also. The only way to maintain security and defense is through the performance of military service. Iraqi Prime Minister Rashid Ali was a nationalist and a political pragmatist, seen as a hard worker, a persuasive speaker, a passionate nationalist, ambitious and reckless, and apt in the heat of the argument to give undertakings sincere at the moment but impossible later to fulfill. The British ambassador in Iraq believed he had evil intentions and they wanted him to be removed. By the end of November, Rashid Ali turned to the Italians, asking them to broadcast propaganda by spreading the story that the British wanted to remove him, which was actually true. He asked the Italians for arms, but the Italians, they refused. Rashid Ali found common cause with Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, Amin al-Husseini, who shared his anti-British stance. The US government started to get involved in Iraq's affairs. They advised the Iraqis to cooperate with the British and claimed to be on the British side. Iraq nationalists added America to their enemies list. Britain then cut arms supplies to Iraq and stopped the subsidy of the Iraqi army, and this was a trigger for another coup d'etat that occurred on the 1st of April 1941 and was perpetrated by several senior officers that were known as the Golden Square or the Four Colonels. The pro-British regent fled the country. The coup had no legal backing. Italy and Japan congratulated the new Iraqi government, but the new Iraqi government was not recognized by Britain, the US, nor Turkey. And Rashid Ali started to negotiate with the British for recognition. By now, the Germans had launched their swift invasions of Yugoslavia and Greece. In Greece, British Commonwealth forces were expelled. Also, there was Rommel's advance across North Africa. Therefore, Churchill decided that Britain had to make sure Iraq would not fall into the hands of the Axis, as it could function as a future airbase for Allied planes. An intervention was needed. Did the British push the Iraqis to war? Were they going to reoccupy the country? If so, then, as the nationalists maintain, Rashid Ali's subsequent action, the ultimatum, and the 30-day war with Britain which followed was a direct nationalist response to British provocation, not a foolhardy exercise by political opportunists bent on leading the country into a quixotic adventure. If, however, Iraq was negotiating with the Axis powers and intended to join them in the war against Britain, Iraq's strategic and economic importance required a direct British response. Iraq was playing both sides, attempting to maintain neutrality in a war which did not concern it, while veering over so slightly towards support of Germany. While Rashid Ali continued his negotiations with the British for recognition, he also asked the Axis forces for support. And the Grand Mufti, as well as the Four Colonels, were convinced Germany was winning the war, were feverishly contacting them for arms and munitions. Churchill wanted action against Iraq. British politicians, however, they were hesitant because they realized how popular Rashid Ali was. Hitler had already approved arms shipments to Iraq, but there were logistical problems. Mid-April, British troops landed at Basra. Now, this was in accordance with the Iraqi-British alliance. Now, Rashid Ali, he first agreed, but 2 days later, he demanded the British to leave the country, and he was against a second shipment of British troops that were on their way to Basra. Now, on the 18th of April, he spoke to the Italian ambassador, saying that Iraq was willing to fight against the British, but for that they needed arms, and they needed arms fast. The government of Iraq wanted to know the following from the Axis governments. First, whether the Iraq army could count on support from the air force of the Axis powers. The airfields of Iraq would of course be placed at the disposal of the Axis powers. Second, whether the Iraq army could count on receiving rifles and ammunition by air transport. In any case, he, Rashid Ali, requested that all the help which the Iraq government had requested even earlier be made available to it, and that financial aid also be given. Now Germany and Italy, they were willing to send arms, ammunition and money to Iraq, but they first needed to solve their logistical problems. In the meanwhile, they urged the Iraqis not to engage the British. They had no military plans whatsoever to assist them. The Iraqi government felt emboldened and presented the British with an ultimatum. Ali refused British troops to land at Basra, but the second contingent, they disembarked anyway. Now Rashid Ali did not want to clash with the British, and he wanted to make them an offer that they could transit through Iraq, and in return they would also recognize his government. But this message never reached the British, and it was too late by now. Regarding the Iraqi military with low esteem and determined to maintain their position, the British attacked the Iraqi army on May 2nd, 1941 at 5 a.m. British planes based in Habbaniya bombed the Iraqi positions and the Iraqis returned fire. "We were forced," Rashid Ali announced to the people the next day, and so the Anglo-Iraqi war had started. The British advanced quickly and overwhelmed Iraqi forces. On the 23rd of May, Hitler issued Order Number 30. The Arab Freedom Movement in the Middle East is our natural ally against England. In this connection, special importance is attached to the liberation of Iraq. I have therefore decided to move forward in the Middle East by supporting Iraq. Now the Germans sent a limited number of aircraft, including Messerschmitt Bf 110s heavy fighters and Heinkel 111s medium bombers from Greece to Iraq, were overpainted with Iraqi symbols. These aircraft were based at Mosul airfield and engaged in limited operations against British forces, including attacking British supply lines and air bases. Italy also sent planes, mostly the Savoia Marchetti bombers, to support the Iraqi army. The air support was too little, too late, as the British occupied Iraq, forcing the German and Italian aircraft to leave the country. The Germans formed ground forces, Sonderstab F, and two small units were created, Sonderverbande 287 and 288. These were not used in Iraq because the British had already put down the Iraqi revolt. 288 was sent to North Africa to join the Afrika Corps. 287 remained in Greece to build up a force of Arab personnel from the Middle Eastern region. These were mostly Arab Palestinians that followed the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, Amin al-Husseini. Furthermore, pro-German Iraqi insurgents who managed to get away from Iraq also joined SV 287 because of their anti-British sentiments. Some were anti-Semites, others were nationalists who despised the British, and others just wanted a job. Now, although the Germans deemed these men as racially inferior, by now pragmatism had gained the upper hand and the Germans could use forces that were willing to fight for them. Now, speaking about Muslims that fought for the Axis, I made two videos about Bosnian Muslim Waffen-SS volunteers. Click here for my video about the SS Handschlag and here for my video about the SS Kama. Thanks for watching, bye for now.